Jalen Hurts, and yes, A.J. Brown. Incredible chemistry they displayed throughout the 2022 season, and that should continue going forward after the Eagles and Hurts reached an agreement on a 5-year, $255 million extension that includes nearly $180 million guaranteed. The Eagles have confirmed Monday that a extension is in place. The financials not, but they're out there. It's the biggest contract in terms of average annual value in NFL history. Deshaun Watson's $230 million contract signed last year with the Browns is fully guaranteed. That's still the biggest in terms of guaranteed money. But Greggy, Hurts also gets what he deserves. A ton of money, a lot of guaranteed money, not as much as the other guy, but a ton, and a no-trade clause. He's set up with the Eagles. Both sides figured out.
Yeah, $110 million fully guaranteed, $126 guaranteed by next March, and a no-trade clause, which is interesting. I think we get into the money later, but to me, it's just like one of the best development stories that we've seen over the last 20 years. To think where we were at this point only 1 year ago, coming off that Bucs playoff game where Todd Bowles cooked up the Eagles pretty good. Showed a lot of looks where the offensive line was confused. Jalen Hurts was confused. Oh, can Jalen Hurts handle the blitz? Oh, this Jalen Hurts story was nice that they ran a lot in the second half of the year, but does that really have legs? Can this guy really play quarterback? The big question about Hurts coming into this year was, can he be a long-term guy? The idea of him being one of the best quarterbacks in the league wasn't on anyone's mind, and his play in this season was so good. I think as big a Hurts fan as I could be, and yet I did not expect him to be that good. He's one of the most effective runners, and that was one of the most effective running seasons in NFL history from a quarterback. But the improvement he's made since his college tape, when he wasn't as good of a passer, to his rookie year to second year to this year, is awesome. And it's a great reminder with the draft coming in 10 days, how far from a finished product most of these players are.
Literally, and it's one of the hardest things to project is what somebody's going to be in 2 and 3 years, and you just make the decision based off of what they currently are. But all through his time at Alabama and at Oklahoma, there was this pocket management issue with Jalen, and he would bail. He would bail, and he would float out to his right, and people wondered, how do we get rid of this? And you saw it, as you mentioned, in those games where things would get tough. It was looking for options that weren't there and giving up on the passing concepts. And then that all just goes away. And he has this 2022 season where it's, if the Eagles get decent play from Jalen Hurts, then they're going to be really good. Well, they got better than that, and they were a play away from winning the Super Bowl.
Yep.
And you could even pick and choose which play that was, because there were any number of them. And there's literally no more other case to make. Even the people, even the weird Wentz stands that were still somehow existing towards the end of the 2022 season, where even they can't argue that Jalen Hurts is a quarterback that should be paid long-term in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think he's 24 years old. He's had one truly kind of transcendent MVP-level season. So you could say, is there a little bit of a gamble in here? Well, I don't see it. I think he showed on the biggest stage in the Super Bowl at the end of a season in which they went 14-1 with him as the starter, that he is absolutely every bit the real deal. But you never know. You never know how these guys age and how injuries can change things. But if you're the Eagles, this makes so much sense, even though it costs obviously a lot and it will change how they have to manage their roster going forward. You trust this organization. Yeah, he's earned that. He's earned that side of things. And I think you're going to see, with Joe Burrow coming up, Justin Herbert potentially coming up here, you might even see this contract get quickly a leapfrog in terms of the greatest average year value and all that. But that doesn't mean that this isn't a good contract. I think it's fair for both sides. And then there's the Lamar side of it, guys, which is this from Jamison Hensley over at ESPN. Hurts' 5-year contract extension with the Eagles is very similar to the Lamar Jackson offer he turned down in September, according to Schefter and Mort. Total value, the total value, $255 v. $250, Hurts $255, and guaranteed for injury, $179 v. $175. Do you see, Patrick?
But that's okay. But Hurts had $110 guaranteed total. Just saying, they like to fuzz around with the math. It was not like a a salary that was a top, like in terms of guarantees, it wasn't even close to a top 5 quarterback so far in terms of total guaranteed money.
Well, I think the clearest road, which was what we saw after the Odell signing, was perhaps the Ravens are willing to come up on what Lamar said, right? Was 3 years, 133, like as a baseline.
Right.
Right. So that would have been like $42 million a year, whereas Hurts got 50, whatever.
And if you go off of because the verbiage, which what Greg was referencing, the verbiage it depends on who you're talking to, because you get 179 in guarantees for Jalen Hurts, right? But what are those guarantees? If there's conditions on them, are they actually guarantees? But if we go off of 179 over 5 years, then that's $35 million a year in guaranteed money for Jalen Hurts. If we go off of that, is 35 a year the number that Lamar was looking for? I just wish that we had concrete details when we're comparing and saying, oh, well, these contracts are very similar. Well, show me specifically where they're similar. And if we're talking about the average annual value, that could be anything. We can tack on some years, and I could give Greg $600 million if we tack on the right structure. But like, what's the actual guarantee? And if we don't know, then it's tough for me to make a comparison, because other quarterbacks have been paid since the negotiation with Lamar started, and that didn't do anything. So I'm just confused as to why this would change, unless it changes what the Ravens are willing to offer. And I don't think they've gotten close to what Lamar wants.
Right. Like, I think they're two totally separate issues. I love that Jalen Hurts was really motivated to get this deal done, and that the Eagles were too, and they did it quietly in terms of just like handling it quickly. They said they were going to get it done. They got it done. Everyone's happy. Lamar seems like totally to the side and isn't going to be affected.
He's to the side, all right.
I mean, isn't going to be affected at all. And that's fine. Like, you want different things. He also, Hurts does it with a couple of years left on his contract. So it's different in terms of leverage, in terms of like motivation. But the whole like guaranteed thing, it does sort of annoy me, because it goes out there as 179 in total guarantees. But then quickly in our article, it notes 126 fully guaranteed by March 2024. So that's the real number to me. And even then, like in theory, if something terrible happened this year, he doesn't even necessarily...
So that was the real guarantee of the Lamar Jackson one?
Apparently it was 3. We don't really know, because we never got the structures in that. Right. But they said it was 3 for 133, and that was sort of the whole deal. That it was that's where it started and got him mad. I don't know if it's going to get him any closer.
But that was the number after years of negotiation, right? And that was the number after the Deshaun contract. So we don't ever know, because there's the tisk-tisking about Lamar not holding out 2 years ago, and we don't know what that offer was.
I get the sense Lamar's kind of cooler about all this than maybe the outside is, and that he might be okay just playing for the franchise tag and seeing what happens next year. I mean, the whole Odell Beckham thing makes you feel that, because Odell Beckham said at his press conference, he's been in contact with Lamar, and I think he's feeling pretty good about it.
Or there's a sense of resignation at this point. Like maybe this isn't going to happen. There hasn't been an offer on the market for him. The Ravens obviously haven't budged from where they're at. So what does he do at a certain point other than what? Not play?
Yeah. Those are the options.
It's a tough situation.
I do think it's interesting that like the 2 times these types of contracts have gone the worst since this last CBA happened, were Carson Wentz and Jared Goff, and the Eagles weren't afraid at all. They believed in Hurts, I think, the dude, as much as the player. Obviously, they believe in him as a player. Like they didn't feel burnt at all by that experience, and did a similarly like top shelf type of contract for him, and not worried about building around him either. There's a lot of good players around him making a lot of money too.